How's it going, Rogues Gallery, and welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. Today is a very fun video because we're going to talk about PvE content in Flesh and Blood. I know it's pretty crazy. It's kind of like a single player or even like a group cooperative PvE content. This content has been confirmed to be in the works by Flesh and Blood creator James White. So we're going to talk about all of that stuff, give my predictions, my speculations, what it could be, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the history of like PvE content in card games to kind of see what has been done before, so what could be done with Flesh and Blood. Before we get started, I do want to note that this video is brought to you by FAB the premier deck building website for Flesh and Blood. They also have like articles, a bunch of information on there. I highly recommend FAB for any sort of deck building needs. And if you're looking to pick up Flesh and Blood singles, check out FAB Foundry. Excellent pricing, excellent customer service, shipping from the US. Once again, affiliate link in the description down below, and the same can be said for Red Riot Games out of Canada. Excellent pricing, excellent customer service. All these folks are very nice individuals. They really care about the Flesh and Blood community. All of these links in the description down below, in addition to my TCG Player affiliate links. If you're looking to pick up cards from TCG Player, check out that link as well. But let's start talking about today's topic because I am really excited to start talking about this. I've seen a couple other Flesh and Blood content creators talk about this, and I figured, you know what? I'm going to weigh in on this because I have a lot to say about PvE content, because there has been PvE content in card games that I have played personally, and I think they could translate really well into Flesh and Blood. So first of all, what do we mean by PvE content? So PvE stands for player versus environment. You can kind of think of this like a single player or like a cooperative style mode where you play against either like a preset deck or just some sort of external enemy that players do not control. And I'll talk about how that might manifest in a little bit, but just remember that it's kind of like a single player or a cooperative kind of mode. In a recent interview by Alpha Investments with Flesh and Blood creator James White did say, and I'm going to read this verbatim from here, "We previewed a PvE prototype at the Calling 10K Auckland back in February 2020. It was very well received with a really big queue to play it. We'll probably do some fun stuff with PvE in the future." And some folks who went to that event actually said it was kind of like a like trash the car or beat up the car style event. Very similar to like Street Fighter 2, where you just kind of like try to deal as much damage to this stationary object in the amount of time possible. And I did learn that it was very hard. Only a couple people actually passed this kind of like PvE test. I think a like beat the car or like beat up the car, trash the car kind of thing is the most rudimentary, most like fundamental thing you can do, the most basic thing you can do. There's a lot of other really cool stuff you can do, but like an official like trash the car kind of thing would be really sweet, maybe as like a token or something like that in a ancillary product, or you know, like a Crucible of War 2, if they put like a token in there that could give you the rules for like a PvE thing, that could be really sweet. Or they can make it into something much more robust and maybe make it into its own product. So let's talk about some things that we've seen before in the past with other card games and how they did PvE stuff, because I actually have some of them with me like right now. So this is like the most basic one that I could think of. This is Garruk the Slayer. I believe this was from M15. This is Magic the Gathering, and this was at pre-releases. You can go to your pre-release and you could compete against Garruk the Slayer, and he would attack you. You'd play your own game of Magic, and you would just attack this Garruk the Slayer, and he would use these abilities here. No player controlled this. It was just kind of either random, or you could just roll the dice to see what he did. When we did it, we just kind of rolled a d4 to see which one he would do, or we would just say he does the best thing possible. I think something like this, featuring a Flesh and Blood villain, maybe that big demon guy we saw in the Balesteri in Viserai's lore. Quick side note, definitely check out the Flesh and Blood lore. It is super good, but there's a big old demon guy that they kind of summoned through this massive Eldritch portal, and I think something like this could be very cool. Pretend this is like the big old demon guy, and he's got a bunch of different attacks here that deal like various effects or various levels of damage, and you can like defend against that kind of stuff. Or maybe there's like a time limit or something like that, and maybe this could come in like a token, or maybe in its own product with maybe like counters, or maybe multiple different, you know, PvE cards. Maybe there's like different difficulties, you know? You can have a card like this and then maybe have like a level 2 version and like a level 3 version, like an easy, medium, and hard kind of thing. I think that could be really, really sweet. But I think this is kind of like the base level, right? This is like the one step above just the beating up the car, kind of like a Garrick the Slayer kind of thing, which I think would be really, really cool. If you wanted to go for the pinnacle of PvE card game content, look no further than the World of Warcraft trading card game. There's a lot of really sweet stuff that the World of Warcraft TCG did. I'm going to talk about a lot of the stuff that these guys did in later videos and how they relate to Flesh and Blood, because I think there's a lot of stuff that's very interesting. Some very interesting parallels between the Warcraft TCG and Flesh and Blood. But for PvE content, this is the Onyxia raid deck. And so this is a cooperative kind of like board game experience almost. So every player would bring their own Warcraft deck. Say there's like 3 players total, right? And so each player brings their own Warcraft deck, and they're gonna fight against this Onyxia deck. And the Onyxia deck is kind of like run by either a neutral party, or people can take turns just flipping the cards over or do something like that. A player could play Onyxia if you wanted to, but you could also just kind of like make it into like a more neutral kind of thing. So you can do like every other turn one player controls Onyxia or something like that. Or just make it so that the deck auto plays like the top card or something like that. I don't remember exactly how Onyxia specifically is done, because they did a lot of these. They did the Onyxia, they did a Naxxramas, a Magtheridon, they did a bunch of these, but I really like the Onyxia one. And so what this is it's an entire deck of cards made specifically as like a boss encounter. So very, very strong, overpowered cards, so multiple players can fight against a single deck. And it is really cool. There's like very oversized cards. You know what? Let's open this up. Let me show you some of these oversized cards. These are also very, very nice, man. These are super nice. I think Flesh and Blood doing something like this would be like the pinnacle, you know? Maybe that big old demon guy, he has his own box, right? And he has his own deck, and he can summon like minions and all this kind of stuff. Maybe he has like special like legendary actions. You know, if you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, he has like special legendary actions where he can do crazy stuff. Maybe like even on your turn. There's a lot of stuff they could do. I think it could be like rad as hell. So Onyxia herself had these like big oversized cards, and she would progress as the encounter went on and get like more powerful as you did more damage to her, gain more abilities, all that kind of stuff. I think this could all be very, very cool in terms of Flesh and Blood. The deck itself was very special. These are all gold bordered cards, which means they are not usable in like tournament play. So this is only for the Onyxia deck. You can't like, you know, take these out and put these in your, you know, mage deck or whatever. So that really prevented people from like, you know, collecting it and that kind of stuff. It was specifically for PvE. And there was also a like little loot pack in each little box here. There was like a loot pack in here that had like some random, like basically like promo kind of cards, like really cool cards that you wanted to get. And what you would do is, if you're doing this right, is you can play the Onyxia deck with your friends, and then once you defeat Onyxia, crack that little loot pack up and like divvy up the loot. I think that was really, really fun, really, really sweet. You can do that in Flesh and Blood with like a little promo pack. Or maybe this would be at like an event at your local game store. And if the players at the local game store, you know, beat the boss, beat the big old demon dude, those players all get like a sweet cold foil promo or an extended art promo or something like that. I think that could be awesome. I think it could be a way to like, you know, help encourage the community. Cooperative content is less combative, you know, I mean, you know, PvP content, you know, player versus player content, you know, competition is all excellent. You know, that's the lifeblood of trading card games for the most part. But, you know, some camaraderie, some PvE content, co-op stuff could be really, really sweet. It could also be a good way to like teach beginners the fundamentals without having to like, you know, either go super easy on them or like crush them, stomp them into the ground. You know, they'll feel better about playing the game, stomping some like PvE monster or something like that. I don't know. I think there's a lot of benefits to this. And I think it is a no-brainer if they can make, you know, even just like little tokens, like I said, maybe just like that Garrick here, maybe just like a little like promo token or something like that. You could even make this into like a box topper or something. You know, this isn't like a fancy card. It's just like, you know, it's just a flimsy card, but it's still really fun to play with. The fact that they're already doing PvE content gives me like really, really high hopes for this. I hope they're like developing it into something really, really sweet, you know, more akin to the Onyxia style thing where it's like more robust with like specific cards. Maybe how it works is like you just flip over the top card of the boss deck and the boss does that thing. And maybe a lot of the cards do like, you know, deal 5 damage to every player or something like that. Or maybe something like choose 3 players at random. One of those players, all of their actions cost 1 additional resource more. Another player, all their actions deal 1 damage to them on their next turn. And then the other player can't use equipment or can't use their weapon or something like that. And if they do this, I'm definitely gonna play some like single player Flesh and Blood PvE content on the channel. I can definitely film that. And I think it would just be a lot of fun, man. Please let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on Flesh and Blood PvE. Are you excited for it? Do you think it's going to be a good way to help like get your friends to play the game, maybe get your significant other? You could play some co-op, you know? I think that's going to be a good way to help encourage people to play a game so it's not as intimidating. Because I know a lot of like TCG veterans, they're like, oh yeah, let's go. Let's throw down. But a lot of people are very nervous when it comes to like this confrontational stuff. Especially if they're playing against someone who's like very well versed in card games. Having like this kind of like, you know, more gentle, maybe not gentle, but like this more thing you can do that will instill a sense of camaraderie could be a good like, you know, jumping off point or something like that. Or just, you know, like a fun thing to do at the end of a tournament. If you like scrub out, you know, do some PvE content, maybe win some promos or something. I think this is just super cool. So yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. I really, really hope to see some official like PvE announcement in 2021 for Flesh and Blood. And I personally can't wait to play against some like sweet PvE content. Maybe with some like really janky decks too. It could be really fun to test out super jank decks against like a PvE boss monster or something like that. I'd love to see some dragons, man. In the lore book, there's like dragons and stuff, man. I'm gonna go on a long tangent here, so I'm just gonna cut it off now. I think this could be really, really cool, and I would love to hear your opinion. So that'll do it for today's video. If you like the video, then, you know, like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell, maybe support my Patreon if you'd like to support me directly. But regardless of what you do, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time for some more Flesh and Blood content. See you later, everyone.